5'9" by Tyler Hubbard on Go Country 105. They say that God makes the good stuff. The good stuff. God makes the good stuff, they say. I'm not going to opine on that, but hopefully that's true. Hopefully that's true. God makes the good stuff. Uh, I'm here with the usual books. I'm going to rant about some stuff today, as I do. Morning exercise, 25 kilograms. This is pretty easy. Y'all turn it up, turn that music up. Come on, get down and give me 20. Get down and give me 20. I'll give you 25 instead. I don't want to give you 20. I'm going to give you 25 push-ups today. Rah! Yeah! Rah! Actually, I haven't broken a sweat yet. Oh, don't make me sweat. I don't like to sweat. I don't sweat. I do the work, but I don't sweat. That's the thing, right? You don't have to sweat. If you keep working hard, you don't break a sweat when you exercise. It's a thing. Unless you're doing long distance, in which case you're screwed. You gotta sweat for long distance. You gotta do long distance. If you do long distance, you're probably gonna sweat. There's no getting around that. But for short distance and most other exercise, you can get away with not sweating. Amazing. All right, so how do you guys like the new YouTube after the new CEO came in? Is it all that you dreamed of? Is it all that you dreamed of? I think that there's one or more settings that are just ticking me off. The new leadership decided, let's go in there like they usually do, and let's just change a bunch of things. And has it gotten better? No, it hasn't. It's gotten worse. Starting with live streams in the morning. It's just so much tinkering just to get the thumbnail. It wants you to force you to take the modern way videos, which is this kind of format like this. And I'm an old schooler. I like to take videos like this. It's just my jam. It's my style. They want to force me to do this. So now I have all this wigglage that I have to do every single time I want to do a live stream on YouTube. Let me tell you something. We are not training the Terminator. The Terminator is training us and is trying to force us by making things very awkward for us to do. And there's just so many things about the new YouTube that just irritate me so much. But guess what? I'm going to be sticking around for a little longer. Anyway, so there was a famous quote from somebody. I read this off the internet somewhere. There's a famous quote from a very wise man. And this wise man said, the new CEO of Twitter and the new CEO of YouTube both haven't done Jack Dorsey for me. This guy's so wise. He's so wise, this guy. Anyway, just in case you didn't hear it the first time, I will reread his quote. It was amazing. I read it. I don't know. Was it on Twitter or was it on TikTok? Probably on TikTok, because Twitter doesn't have anything useful for us anymore. Anyway, so the new CEO of Twitter and the new CEO of YouTube both haven't done Jack Dorsey for me. Anyway, so it's one of those moments when you're like, oh Susan, I miss you, Susan. Baby, come back. You can blame it all on me. I was wrong. Please come back, Susan. Anyway, and with that, guys, I will talk about a couple of things that are kind of interesting. I've known about this stuff for a while, but maybe it's actually going to be coming out in markets near you soon, is what I like to call soulless meat. Basically, it's meat that doesn't have a soul, that can be manufactured in a lab, and it can be manufactured to be basically almost fatless, and very healthy. And so one of the things that we're going to be asking ourselves going into the future is, do we still want to butcher animals for meat when we can just go out and buy ourselves some soulless meat, basically meat that is manufactured in a lab, so it doesn't have a conventional body, doesn't have eyes, doesn't have a brain, doesn't have regular organs. You just basically manufacture this meat, which is basically skin, possibly muscle tissue, and a bunch of other things, and that's all. And then you can just eat that, which basically means pretty much no animal fat going into your body and you being healthy. So that'll be an interesting thing going into the future, whether that's going to be a debate, whether it will bring some vegans back to meat or not, I don't know. But the whole idea of not having to, there's always something, right? There's always something about grabbing an animal, strangling it, and sticking a blade into it, and just basically killing it. That's going to put off people, especially the youngins. And so going into the future, to have an alternative to having to kill meat is kind of a cool thing, at least in my opinion. What else was I going to talk about? A lot of people are still chasing that American dream, chasing that old-fashioned American dream where you could just, just buy some land and nobody would bother you on your land. Your land was your own. And so long as you had bought a piece of land, nobody could take that land away from you. Which means you could grow crops on your land. You could farm your own animals on your land, and you could be completely independent and self-sufficient from anybody else. And if you wanted money, you could sell the things that you made, your crops. You could sell the animals. And with that, you could buy electricity, you could buy heating, you could buy a bunch of other things. But so long as you had a piece of land, nobody was taxing your land, nobody was doing anything, so you were really self-sufficient. And for as many years to come, so long as your family owned that land, nobody could take that away from them. Well, that's not America anymore. We know that everything has become paid to play. Paid to play. You're constantly paying someone else to something else. So even at some point when you retire, you become an old person, whatever it is, an elderly, you're no longer safe in your home. You're always got the pressure and the stress of somebody coming to knock on your door at some point to say, hey, pay your dues, pay your taxes, pay this, pay that, or you're out of here. And so, in such a world, everybody's always on their stress levels are very high, which brings people to earlier deaths and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of sad because America is no longer America. It hasn't been America for a while. It's been turning more and more into Europe, and that is where I jump up and down and scream into the camera. Stop the bringing of Europe to America, because I finally got here. I'm finally an American citizen with an American passport. But I just look out there. I'm like, oh, there's another one of my rights going away. Oh, there's another one of my rights going away. Oh, there's another one of my rights going away. And one of the latest rights that will be going away soon, you know what that is? The government is jumping onto the VR stuff. Again, I can only tell you about the fields that I'm, quote unquote, sort of passionate about, technology, if you will. So, you know how they've jumped into the drone sphere, trying to make it impossible for people to have a good time to just go out to a field and do droning. They've jumped into the field of photography now. Photography, if you take videos, You can't take videos in national parks without getting a permit. They will get you. You can't fly a drone or make money with drones anymore unless you have a Part 107, which means throwing away money at something. Again, they'll get you. But the latest and greatest thing is they're trying to make it so that if you do things inside virtual reality, inside the gaming field. So let's say, imagine you're playing, again, not a big fan of Call of Duty, not a big fan of the shoot 'em ups and stuff. But imagine going into the future, if you're in the video games and you do something that's excessively violent, like killing people or things in the video games, and you can get fined for that, or people can give you a hard time if you've done stuff like that, and you're in a different country, and you've done, something that is considered to be a no-no in the virtual reality, that obviously has absolutely zero effects with real reality. So whatever you've done that is in the digital sphere inside a video game, but has not really caused any real damage to anybody outside of the video game, they're trying to find a way to punish you and possibly even not allow you into the US with stuff like that. Anyway, I discovered this from Thrill Seeker. I was kind of astonished that something like this was happening, but just putting it out there for you guys. It could be the future. It could be the future, just like relationships maybe between humans and robots going forward. At some point, we'll have the TTG, the test tube generation. Again, it's happening. It will happen. I can guarantee that it's going to happen going into the future. But what's worse at this point is a lot of people take solace in the fact that they can go into video games and get out of reality and do things that they couldn't do in reality over there, which also brings us to having less people that are violent in the real world. If they can be violent in the video games and shoot up people, whatever, do their whatever things that they do in Call of Duty and all those games that I don't particularly like and not a fan of, but it's somebody else's jam. And so long as they're doing the killing and all that kind of stuff, and they're doing it in digital, and whatever stays in digital stays, whatever happens in digital stays in digital, just like whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. That's obviously better than having some crazy people with anger in the streets, burning up the streets and stuff like we saw during the pandemic. Anyway, that's my thought on that. Obviously, it's unpopular because the government's going after that one place where you don't have to be in trouble with everybody, but Anyway, isn't that great? Isn't that great that America is becoming more Europeanized every day? There's a reason why Europeans run away from Europe and come to America, for that freedom that is no longer available. And every day it shrinks. I'm an American. I have hand rights. Anyway, for a little bit of news going into drones and stuff. So one of the funnest things, or one of the most ridiculous things, was when I jumped into drones. I was like, I was listening to all of the technologists, all of the experts on technology, jumping into drones. I was like, hey, isn't that such a cool thing? I'd love to get into drones, and I'd love to get into that other thing called FPV, where you can jump inside the drone, but you've got things like these DJI goggles or analog goggles and stuff like that. And it was like fantastic. It was like almost like having an out of body experience. I've always been into like those etherical arts, bringing yourself beyond the body and all that stuff, yoga, excuse my humanity, Tai Chi and all that cool stuff. So I was like, whoa, this is cool. Imagine that. I don't have to spend like 3 hours meditating so that I can get out of my body and do cool stuff. Now I can just, with a piece of technology, I can stick a bunch of goggles on my head, and I can fly and see around myself, and it's so cool. And you can check out trees, and you can check out the birds and the bees and all the cool stuff that's flying around, the ducks at the lake, all that cool stuff. You can make videos and you can make money and all that stuff. And I started off like that, and it was great until part 107 magically popped up. But what I want to talk about today is how back in the day when I was listening to all the experts, it was all about analog. Analog is the best. Analog is the best. No, don't get digital. Digital is not so good. Blah blah blah. It's cheaper. It's better. It's fantastic. Blah blah blah. And then the issue with that was that you end up buying all of this different equipment, and it's all like really cool stuff, and it's great, and I loved it, but it gives you very limited range. I mean, you can't go very far. You can't even go as far as your eye can see, which is the famous line of sight, and be able to fly your drones. The out of the box settings are abysmal. They're just terrible, 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 terrible. So I was getting maybe like the equivalent of like 5 to 10 meters with all my digital systems, even the ones that had that famous crossfire. Oh my God, crossfire is so cool. And then you put like a couple of trees in the way, and the signal dies on you. And then I was doing this, and at the same time I was flying the typical DJI Mini 2 drone, which I bought because of a lot of reviews, especially like Captain Drone and stuff. They were like, get yourself the DJI Mini 2. It is fantastic. And it turns out it is fantastic. And I was getting this amazing penetration, even with trees in the way, all kinds of stuff. And I like to fly low to the ground. I'm not one of those fly them up in the air. From the beginning of time, I've always been the kind of like stay within the 0 to 15 feet, which is, I'm not sure exactly how much that is in meters, but I would say I would never go above 10 meters or so somewhere around there. Because that's my jam. I just like doing that kind of thing. I like taking videos of things that I love, of all kinds of things. Like I'd take videos of the car, of the trees, of the lake and stuff. I would go to like local businesses and like do like little videos. I'll shoot the logos of the restaurant that I liked, or I went to Tesla, love that thing. I went to Costco, the businesses that I liked and I use on a regular basis. Just wanted to promote that stuff, and I would do it with the drones. I wouldn't do it with the goggles ones because my FPV flying was not that good at the time. But I would record with the other ones to show off and look how cool this business is, look how cool that business is. But anyway, part 107 killed all that. You can't do much of that anymore. And even if you do, you can't monetize it. So it's basically another dead industry. And that's why, again, when I say like I'm too liberal to be conservative, and I'm too conservative to be liberal, and I'm too crazy to be libertarian and all that good stuff. I'm not left, I'm not right, I'm a little forward and all that stuff, is because I'm tired. But I do understand where the conservatives come, which is government. Get off my back. Let me live my life. Because again, it's like the 0.1% of people who are stupid with drones and with camera drones and doing things that are ruining everything, all aspects of our lives, all aspects. Like you can't go to a national park and take video without a permit now. You can't fly your drone freely out there anymore because of that, and all that stuff. But anyway, I digress. What I discovered is that if you buy yourself a DJI FPV drone, or a DJI drone in general, anything that's digital, out of the box, your penetration is going to be better than anything you can buy analog which is stock, right? The gurus can go in this program called Betaflight, which is very complicated to install and stuff like that. Now they've made some modifications which are pretty cool. Now the version that's for iPhone and I think Android is more streamlined. They've made drones now that use Bluetooth, so you can get into the analog system and tweak things so you can get further penetration of stuff like that. But again, however you want to do it, whatever, it tends to not be as good as your out of the box settings. And who wants to really mess around with those settings anyway, when you can just buy something and it works out of the box, which is DJI. So what you're noticing now in the, because people have, this information is out there now. Before, it was every single drone pilot out there, or an enthusiast or reviewer was like, go, just jump into analog, jump into analog. They were all about analog, but the tune has been changing recently, when people are actually buying these things and realizing that, okay, I bought this beautiful analog this, analog that. Now I'm only getting like 10 meters of, visibility, which is maybe like somewhere like my range is like, go like 15 this way and 15 up. So like 15 and 360. That is the best that you're getting out of these analog goggles. But you go with the digital, you're getting clear vision, even further than that out of the box. And people are like, well, why, I'd spend a little bit more to get one drone that works, rather than buying all of these other ones. And then you need to have the fat shark goggles. You have to get the receiver, or the remote with the crossfire receiver. It's so cool. And then I tried it, and it was just like barely reaching what you would get from the DJI FPV potato jet. This one right here, the potato jet, which eventually is what I ended up getting in the end, because it's the most reliable one that's out there right now. The DJI Avatar, whatever you want to call it, aka Screech, is not as screechy as they said. By the way, I purchased it. I sold my soul to the devil so that I could get my hands on it and review it, and then I had to send it back because I can't afford to keep it right now. I'm waiting for the new latest and greatest version. Hopefully is going to be less expensive, maybe coming in at 300 would be great. Would be great if they could drop the price about half of what's going right now. Sometimes it's about as even like 700 in some places, without buying the goggles, without buying the remote, without buying all that stuff. It's so expensive. Anyway, so I'm hoping for the Avatar Generation 2, or the whatever, they might call it something else. It might not be the Avatar Generation 2. They might call it some other thing, DJI FPV, or they might come with something else that's wacky, which is great, because usually when they do, it gets so much popularity and stuff. Because I think they were going with the Avatar, because Avatar is like Avatar. The movie was coming out, and it kind of like came out roughly within that time frame, so people were listening to Avatar. It's pretty good with they're very good with the branding, the DJI people. They're not just amazing, like, entrepreneurs and with all the engineering and stuff. They're also amazing with their marketing. Anyway, so with that said, guys, if you were to buy something that's DJI, or that is FPV today, I would wait for DJI to come out with the latest and greatest version of this, which I believe is going to be something that looks like this. Something that looks like this, possibly with the propellers pointing upwards instead of downwards. We've noticed that the ones that point downwards, for some people, not all, have something called a tumble issue, where they fall out of the sky when you don't know how to fly properly, because you're a beginner, so you're just flopping around, or you're trying to fly it like the good old DJI FPV potato jet, which is this one. You could get away with pretty much doing any kind of maneuver, and this thing would not fall out of the sky. So if people got used to that kind of flight, and they went over to the Avatar of Death, then they would just drop out of the sky because they did something wrong themselves. It's basically user error, but hey, there was a kerfuffle that went on forever. And the other thing is, the DJI FPV Mini 3 is fantastic. It's got this cool new camera with all kinds of features. It can see on top of the plane, on top of the air units, on top of the drone, and below. And it can do all these cool things that many other drones do not have the ability to do these days. So that is kind of like the ticket for that. But they also have, I think, the latest and greatest DJI Mini 2 version, which is kind of more affordable too. So anyway, they have lots of good stuff going for them these days. And so digital turns out to be where people are headed in the future. They have all these other systems. The walk snail. What else do they have? I think that's it, right? The three digital main systems is DJI, walk snail, and Fat Shark. Those are the things that are being used right now. And some of those now are like by system. I think the walk snail is trying to be by system. So if you buy one system, you can use analog and digital at the same time, which is kind of mind-blowing that you can do that. So that's an option for some people. Again, you got to be more techie about it. If you are not techie, then you go with the what do you call it? With the DJI, because DJI offers the whole package for digital in one thing. And if you have that, once you buy that, you probably don't have to worry about anything else. And there's lots of other like FPV drones that now have the air unit in it, so you can if you're willing to spend some time to bind your digital goggles and remote to those things, now you can actually use the DJI remote that came with the FPV drone and use that for the digital. So I mean, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool that they're doing that for the more professional drones, if you will. They're doing that. Anyway, most of the time with the analog, you were seeing amazing digital video because they were putting GoPros on top of the so they were seeing with the analog, but then they were videotaping, or they were shooting video with the whatchamacallit. Oh, I'm starting to read the wrong book. We are going to read Investment Management, a Science to Teach or an Art to Learn, because that's where we are today. Again, the new CEO of YouTube is worse than the previous CEO, and that's why I say, baby, come back. You can blame it all on me. I was wrong. Please come back, Susan. Anyway, because at least when Susan was around, I would get one person watching in the mornings. Now I get 0. So I mean, hey, the new CEO of YouTube ain't even this much better than Susan. I want Susan. I love you, Susan. Platonically. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get in trouble. But Susan, come back. I miss you already. Investment management, a science to teach or an art to learn. Again, if you are just a viewer on YouTube, you have no idea what's going on because you don't create any videos for YouTube. But YouTube has gotten a whole lot worse since the new CEO. As somebody who constantly makes videos in Livestream and other formats, I've noticed all kinds of things, including the wall, the famous new version of the Instagram that YouTube had integrated, and Susan had done a fantastic job of creating this thing. Now sucks because back in the day, I could go and check out, like, for instance, my own videos and check out to see how I was doing and stuff like that. But now, when you go into the Instagram wall that's YouTube or whatever they call it, stories, I'm not sure. You could basically post your different. You could have polls on there. You could have just general images with text underneath. And unfortunately, you can't have polls with images unless you do that on the computer, which is really stupid. But I guess that's something that the new CEO implemented. I don't know. I think you should be able. I think some people were able to do that in the past. But anyway, the point is, you could just go and, let's say I wanted to check out some of my favorite YouTubers like Brian Phillips RC or the RC Sailors or Original Dobo, or I don't know who else is good these days. Paul McWhorter, Top Tech Boy, Eli the computer guy. Who else is good? I mean, there's so many. I did a whole list. They're always in the back there. Veganese, Cheap Lazy Vegan. There's so many cool channels out there. Anyway, you could go to their wall or their Instagram story things, and you could look through all of them. And you could go, oh, that was cool. And you could go, especially if you're a fan of them, you could just go and press like on all of them. Go down the list and just press like, and really support them. That's not a thing anymore. Now you only get to see like snippets. You might see like one of their wall things show up as a snippet. If you go on there, it doesn't lead you to the other ones. So now you just can only like that one that you saw. Again, the new CEO, I'm not sure what the heck is going on. But anyway, just jumped into the CEO chair. Let's change everything. That is like so stupid, guys. That is so incredibly stupid. But what are you going to do, right? What are you going to do? The new CEO is going to do what the new CEO is going to do. There's all kinds of crap going on. And with that, I'm going to jump into this book because I'm kind of irritated. Investment Management, a Science to Teach or an Art to Learn. Let's get into that Frank J. Fabozzi CFA stuff. Let's get into it. Where do we get to? I think we got to diversification. So, diversification. Although diversification is considered a sound probabilistic concept, the benefits of diversification change as market states or correlations and expected returns change. In the case of market corrections or crashes, even well-diversified portfolio is not protected against large losses. Dennis Logue, Professor Emeritus at the Tuck School of Business Administration of Dartmouth College and Chairman of the Board of Directors of Lydiard Financial Group, remarked in his experience, although students are taught about diversification, they are not taught what might be done when the correlations among markets grow closer to one, and diversification does not work. Or, excuse my humanity, or as defenders of diversification would argue, work less well. Students are not taught, he added, how to deal with chaos or non-normal distributions. How we teach diversification is another illustration of the fact that as our finance theory holds to get, we are not preparing students to handle events outside theory. Professor Olivier remarked, I do not think that one should teach diversification Markowitz theory without talking about structural breaks and estimation errors of the variance, covariance matrix and their implication for the composition of efficient portfolios. Steve Grainer, Director of Portfolio Risk at FactSet Research Systems, concurs. He believes that we should be focusing on how to reduce estimation error, how to account for fat tail correlations, and how to apply extreme event stress testing. Professor Sornet goes a bit farther. He believes that the concept of diversification is intrinsically inapplicable to financial markets because of their non-stationary nature. Pricing assets and the CAPM. Despite the critiques that the CAPM is a flawed partial equilibrium theory and the one-factor model is sloppy econometrics, and despite the fact that the tenets of the CAPM have been invalidated in numerous empirical studies, the CAPM is still widely taught as a theoretical framework for asset pricing. But should we continue to teach the CAPM? Jim Liu, Assistant Professor of Finance at the Johns Hopkins Carey Business School, remarked that although the CAPM can break down in situations of distress, you do not throw out all of finance. Rather, you should show its limitations. Students need to know the development of how models progressed from a CAPM to 3 and 4-factor models. As a professor in finance, you need to lay out all sides of the arguments to paint a rich picture of the developments in context. to show the spectrum of arguments, pro and con, out there and ultimately encourage students to arrive at their own conclusions. CAPM is not the only thing out there. Model risk is particularly serious in the domain of option pricing. Derivatives contracts can be complex to describe mathematically and have many distributions that need to be jointly estimated. In addition, market prices of derivative products are often set by models. In other words, derivatives are priced and traded as a function of the outcomes of complex mathematical models. As other traders try to exploit arbitrage opportunities ultimately generated by the interplay between different models, model risk is clearly a serious issue in derivatives pricing. Professor Olivier believes that option pricing should not be taught without spending time on the issue of model risk. Dr. Grainer observed that some of the theories learned in the classroom are being applied by students when they move into investment management positions, despite the empirical evidence proving that the theories are wrong. He remarked, for instance, what MBA schools do to a fault is to tie the fundamentals of company to return of its stock too much. It is just not that sticky. The problem is that by teaching idealizations that are empirically unsatisfactory, we are producing a generation of students who will tend to blindly apply methodologies that are, in the end, contradicted by empirical facts. A more fundamental critique of the academic emphasis on asset pricing models came from Professor Leo, who questions today's focus on precise asset pricing as opposed to pragmatic decision-making. He argued that asset pricing is an intellectual exercise focusing on decision-making forces one to think pragmatically and gives priority to forecasting and uncertainty. Professor Leo remarked, the rapid development of financial markets over the last 40 years has led to a shift in emphasis away from decision-making and towards asset pricing. Part of the problem we face today is that asset pricing is in general, and derivatives pricing in particular gives the impression that the price of any asset can be determined ambiguously and almost scientifically. By centering around the decision-related aspects, we will be able to change our emphasis to what we do not know rather than what we know or think we know. It will also be easier to present our body of knowledge as heuristic rules rather than scientific results. Hopefully, this will help the field open and growing while ensuring that practitioners and academics exercise proper judgment. Others also commented on overdependence on theoretical framework as opposed to a practical framework for asset valuation, referring to economic and finance theory as taught today. Russell Napier, a consultant with CLSA, Asia Pacific Markets, and author of The Anatomy of the Bear, 2005, commented, "We should say here is the intellectual framework as starting point to establishing value. The theory is simple and not too important as it provides only a framework for the practical business of asset value. So much of the job in assessing value related to future where a theoretical framework can only be limited use. A study of the history of valuation at least has the advantage of alerting investors to the factors that have impacted valuation and thus might do so again." In fact, that today's finance theory does not describe real markets explains why practitioners and academics who seek empirical verification of the theory are in search of a different type of theory, one that is more in line with the paradigm of the physical sciences and therefore of practical use. For example, Andrew Ng, professor of business at Columbia Business School, considers factor theory central to asset management. He believes that understanding factors is the key to understanding returns. He argues that factors are to assets what nutrients are to food, with factor risks the driving force behind risk premiums. Professor Ang lists as examples of investment factors interests, rates, value, growth, investing, volatility, investing through options, for example, and momentum portfolios, as well as fundamental macro factors such as inflation and economic growth. That the reality of markets should be the primary object of study is perhaps the key adjustment that needs to be made to both the theory and the teaching of finance. Students now learn, idealized markets where prices follow a theoretical asset pricing model. When markets present deviations from the idealized behavior, students of finance are told that market prices tend to revert rapidly to their theoretical real prices. This is questionable. As one source at an investment management firm remarked, the firm gets calls from doctoral students who typically want to come and give presentations on what they have discovered to be market anomalies, that is, mispricings. But the anomalies, he notes, are not linked to what happened in 2007, 2009, a very big anomaly indeed, which keeps happening over and over. The efficient market hypothesis in response to the question, should we continue to teach EMH and other theories such as GET and CAPM to students of investment management sources mentioned the need to encourage students to be skeptical of the theory we are teaching. With reference to the theory of market efficiency, Professor Logue remarked, students are not taught to be skeptical enough. If the professor says markets are efficient, they do not really know how to produce a study refuting this, or to design a study that would fail to refute it if that is the result they would get. The EMH argues in favor of investing in passive indices as opposed to active management. But as resources remarked, a whole industry bets on active management. Edward Chen, CIO and head of multi-asset research at Panagora, commented, the teaching of finance and economics places much emphasis on equilibrium theory and efficient market hypothesis. But active management is based on finding mispricing and or forecasting future returns. If someone has a strong belief in EMH, it is unlikely that he or she will be motivated to find evidence that rebukes EMH, and therefore less likely to be successful. Of course, some students go on to be successful professional investors. The irony is that while they are profiting from market inefficiencies, their professors are publishing scholarly articles and in some cases winning the Nobel Prize in economic sciences with ideas of rational expectations and market equilibrium. Yeah, this is the funniest thing ever, right? The funniest thing ever, right? The professors are making a lot of money or becoming Nobel Prize winners for theories that don't really work in the real world. And people who are history buffs or people who love to read that stuff made by the professors are thinking, well, if the professors are correct, then the stuff that they're writing in their books is useful in the real market, and then it's not. Some argue that the importance of the EMH is being overstated. Mr. Napier asked, should we continue to teach such concepts as the EMH, GET, CAPM? His suggestion, take the theory as a skeleton of the body and do not make too much of it. If one is a medical student, one needs to know the skeleton, but do not spend too much time on it. It does not tell you how the body works. The theory is based on assumptions that were put there for good reason, but many of these assumptions can lead to certainty of conclusions that are both illusory and dangerous. Anyway, guys, so another thing that I want to point out before I jump into cocktail, classici and esotici is, well, there's two things that I want to point out. The one is that the weather is sucky. Which is why, although I brought my amazing jacket here, and soon when the weather gets better, I will be wearing a tie to these amazing events, of which the new CEO won't even allow me to have one person showing up, because that's how bad the algorithm has gotten since his new kingship. The algorithm brings me no viewership at all. Before with that beautiful Susan that I keep singing the praises of because she was my muse, platonically. Well, at least I had one viewer. At least I have one viewer per episode. But now, the new CEO awards me 0, which is just like, come on, man. Come on, man. The new CEO gets fired after 10 days of work, whatever. However long he's been around. A month or something? I don't know. It's horrible. It's horrible what he's done to YouTube in just a month. He's ruined it. It's abysmal now. We want Susan. We want Susan. Anyway. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, if you see any of those fun commercials about if you take this drug, it's gonna redo. Your teeth are gonna grow back amazingly, more amazingly than before, or your hair is gonna grow back more amazingly than before. Come and do this special. Come off of basically YouTube and do our special study on your special body type or whatever. So then we can assign you the most amazing diet ever. Buy the coolest drone in the world that is $100, but it can do stuff that our DJI drones do, which are like priced in the 10,000s of dollars. But you could buy it at $99 and all that stuff. Or you have to listen to me because check out my Porsche or my latest Viper in the back that I'm driving in the whatever. Hey, the latest Bugatti that I threw a bunch of eggs at. I'm so rich that I can buy eggs and I can throw them at my Bugatti that I just rented out or borrowed from a friend to make 1 million views and stuff. But I have the special solution for you, the make it rich quick scheme, which is almost pretty much always a pyramid scheme, which is going to make you money. In just a couple of months, you'll make your first $10,000. Come, listen to me. All of those things, whenever you see a commercial of those, the loophole that existed is either about to close or it has already closed. So by the time you go and click that link to the other thing, you're making the other people through their website, making them probably millions of dollars, whatever. By following that link and watching that video, and then you have maybe like a 10-day window to exploit that loophole, and then it closes, and then you're just basically gonna keep going from ad to ad and wasting money and all that stuff. I know because I've done that in the past. I was stupid enough to buy a franchise. I bought a franchise so that I could teach English abroad in Thailand. And the company never gave me the franchise software that I purchased. They took the money, they kept the money. I hope the kids, they use that money wisely to help teach kids in Thailand, but that was a lot of money. So that's why I tell you guys, stay away from those, make your money fast, become rich quick schemes. Those are all based on loopholes that are about to end or have already ended. And all you're doing is giving money to these horrible websites. I would pretty much consider all those spam. And unfortunately, there's no way. YouTube does not have a function, and all those companies don't have a function to get these people and to basically say, hey, I know this one is 100% scam, and you should have a button on there to be able to press on those commercials and say, listen, this is such a scam. Don't fall for it. and YouTube should be able to delete those things off of the bat. They should know. They should have people in their departments. They should have people that should be able to go through all the adverts that show up on YouTube and verify if these things are scams or not. But nobody's doing that on YouTube, on all social media. And now the worst thing is with Twitter and with Meta taking upon themselves to make the verified thing a pay-to-play kind of game. Guess who's going to be the ones making these commercials are the ones going to be paying the $12 a month so that they can push these horrible, make yourself rich, make your first $10,000 in a month kind of get rich quick schemes. And they're going to be plastering them all over social media. So not only is it going to be annoying, but a lot of people who are desperate to get out of their paycheck to paycheck kind of situation are going to fall for these things. They're going to waste their time. They're going to be upset. And it's going to make a lot of people upset and depressed, which leads to all kinds of other things. And if you're already living paycheck to paycheck because America is reaching the new level of sucking. Anyway, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to survive another 4 years of Joe Obama, but let me be clear. We're going to have another 4 years of Joe Obama. We are, because you guys know it. I know it. You know it. There's no other way to do it. And I'm hoping so much that DeSantis Monte di Pilo is not going to run for office, because if he runs for office, he might never become the president that we all need. And if I was DeSantis, I would be looking to make sure that Donald Duck is not running. If Donald Duck runs, I would not run as DeSantis. I would just not run. I would wait for the age of the dinosaurs, Donald Duck versus Joe Obama, to end. And then hopefully that'll be the next future. Hopefully, my only hope is that Joe Obama decides to step down, and we might have the first female president. And then from there, things would go well into the future. But we probably won't get that. So it's going to be the worst case scenario, because let's face it, let's say Joe Obama doesn't make it, they can replace him with a robot, and we would never know the difference. So we're gonna have, mark my words, we're gonna have the next 4 years of Joe Obama. But after that, hopefully something better will happen. So in the meantime, since the government is not going to save you, it is up to the people to make all the good things happen for other people, and to close an eye, shut an eye, and help the people that deserve it to get into the workforce, to help the homeless and all that stuff. It is up to us, because the government is sending money to other countries instead of saving America. That is where we are today. People did the math on it. If we hadn't given the money to Croatia, or whatever the heck is going on, I don't know. If we hadn't sent out money to whatever other country out there, they did the math on it, Americans' homelessness would have disappeared today. But we have our priorities not so straight. And so the world continues to be the way that it is. And we're still here, waiting on the world to change. We keep on waiting. Hey, yay. You know what I sound like? I sound like a roly-poly. Oh yeah, it's the new Beanie Baby Rolo. That's what I sound like right now. Anyway, let's go. So sours whiskey. What are we doing? Sours whiskey or a spritzer? Was it Sean Spitzer? Sean Spitzer. I think that was my first Yeah, that was my first employer that paid me something in America. That was my first employer. Sean Spitzer. He had this company called Ghost Rabbit Entertainment. I don't know if that still exists, but Ghost Rabbit Entertainment gave me my first paycheck, my very first paycheck. It was $50 for producing a model that took me two or more weeks to produce. And that was probably worth, market value. Market value would have been about $500, but nobody ever pays artists market values. So the going price was 50 bucks. And so, yeah, that's when I realized that my career as 3D modeler would never exist in America. Because in the UK, I could get paid like roughly like $2,000 per month easily. But in America, as a 3D modeler, all I could get was like 50 bucks. 50 bucks per model. And again, imagine if it takes you 2 weeks to produce a high quality 3D model, and then all you can get for that 2 weeks of labor is $50. That's when I knew that my career in America was never going to be in 3D modeling or in rigging or anything like that, anything computer related. I had come to America when it was too late, when all the businesses were on a decline. Meant that it was a pointless task. In Europe, it was kind of like in Scotland and in, I guess, maybe, I don't know, Ireland. I didn't work in Ireland. But in England and hey, okay, we're back. Guess what? I guess the sour grape was too grapey. I brought too much salt this morning, and so the algorithm knocked me out of the live. Anyway, crabbiness here. Because after all, you came here for that pesky conniving son of a gun. Marco reviews. Oh, I found my pesky sign. There it is. My pesky sign is back. Can the people in this place stop being so beautiful? It's just. Some might say it's wrong. Some might say it's just wrong. It's just so hard to concentrate when so many beautiful people just walking by. Why is that? Why is it that? Anyway, I'll put some stuff back. Pesky conniving son of a gun is gonna try to read. We were talking about Rose. No. Sours. We're gonna talk about sours. Look at this. Disney Gym Girl, the channel, says, hit the reset button. It's new year to you. What you love and try your ideas. Wow, that's great. You see, this must be from a message from the new CEO. It's got spelling mistakes in it. Whether that's connecting with your audience in new ways or growing your channel, tell fans what you want to explore this year in short, using hashtag year of you. So if you want to use the hashtag year of you, you can. What a brilliant new idea from the new CEO. Anyway. It says, Disney Gym Girl, what does 2023 look like for you? It looks like a bundle of poops. What about yours? How's yours doing? How's yours doing it? It's worse than ever. Baby, come back. You can blame it all on me. I was wrong. Please come back, Susan. Anyway, with that, because I'm gonna be singing this song all year round now, just to make sure that the new CEO does something useful for YouTubers, as in the content creators, because it hasn't. All right, sours, whiskey sours. Ingredienti: 7 decimi bourbon whisky, 3 decimi succo di limone, un cucchiaino di zucchero e di sciroppo di canna, una goccia di albume, facoltativo, which means you may or may not need to put in una goccia di albume. Si prepara nello shaker con cubetti di ghiaccio cristallino e si serve nella coppetta da cocktail ben fredda decorando con una ciliegina. A ciliegina being this thing right here. It is a cherry. So go ahead and pop that cherry in your whiskey sours. Anyway, we're going to do the spritzer. Not spitzer, but spritzer. Ingredienti. And what is, it would be a spritzer. The spritzer. There you go. There you go. Wasn't it hilarious when Elon Musk pretended to be, was it Wario or something? I don't know. It's kind of hilarious. Ingredienti. Mezzo vino bianco, mezza soda. Versare in un bicchiere tumbler alto con alcuni cubetti di ghiaccio cristallino. Decorare, se gradita, con una fetta di limone. We're going to do the next one, which is the stinger. Is it the stinger or the stinger? I'm not sure. The Italians would probably call it the stinger. Lo stinger. Ingredienti. 7 decimi cognac, 3 decimi crema di menta bianca. Si prepara nello shaker con alcuni cubetti di ghiaccio cristallino oppure direttamente in uno bicchiere old fashioned con ghiaccio. We're gonna go into the tequila. Tequila, I love tequila. All kinds of tequila. It's amazing, tequila. All right, so let's get into the tequila. Tequila sunrise. One long drink. Tequila sunrise, un long drink. Ingredienti: 7 decimi succo d'arancia, 3 decimi tequila, uno spruzzo di sciroppo di granita. Versare succo d'arancia e tequila in un bicchiere tumbler alto con alcuni cubetti di ghiaccio cristallino. Completare con lo sciroppo di granita, così da dare l'effetto del sole che nasce, which is the effect of the rising sun, or the sun that lives, that is born, the born sun. Anyway, tequila sunrise, 2 short drink. Ingredienti: 4 decimi tequila, 2 decimi liquore Galliano, 2 decimi liquore di banana, 1 decimo sciroppo di granita, 1 decimo succo di limone. Si prepara nello shaker con cubetti di ghiaccio cristallino e si serve nella doppia coppetta da cocktail o in un bicchiere old fashioned con ghiaccio in scaglie e una cannuccia. Tecchini. I'm not sure how you say this. Or tecchini. Ingredienti: 4 quinti tequila, 1 quinto vermouth dry. Si prepara nel mixing glass con alcuni cubetti di ghiaccio cristallino e si serve filtrato in una coppetta da cocktail decorando con una spirale di scorza di limone. All right, so we got to page 50. We will continue from page 50 tomorrow. Don't worry, when this Italian books runs out, we have another Italian book that I brought a couple of days, which is Ponte di Pilo. Ponte di Pilo. It is perfect, and it goes well with that. Where did I put that thing? Over there. Where did I put that thing? It was... gosh darn it. Frozen. Okay, so I promised you that I would read all the other names of the donors, but we're not doing that today. I was just kidding. I wasn't really lying. I was just kidding. I was not going to read all the different things because I want you to go and watch this awesome Frozen and other awesome shows that they have here at the Segerstrom Center for the Arts in February 2023. So I'm not going to do that thing that I said that I was going to do because there's just too many. And it took me like 30 minutes last time to read all of the donors, and their pages just go on and on and on and on. And this, of course, is not going to help bring any of those donors to the channel, because, of course, that would be crazy. If, for some reason, any of those donors would show up and show some support, even like $1 for the YouTube channel, of course, they would never, ever, ever do that, because that would be like crazy, wouldn't it? But anyway, so I did show them. They were here. Then we also have the center staff. The center staff. No, it has nothing to do with martial arts or anything like that. But anyway, guys, just in case you guys get to see, there is a QR code right there. So if you guys wanted to, you could use that QR code to get yourself, I don't know what you could get yourself, but whatever it is that you could get yourself, get it for yourselves. Segerstrom Center of the Arts. Now, you guys know that I love this place, as well as the South Coast Repertory. I was a big fan of ABT as well, until they decided that they have to have endless COVID shots for your children. And so it's like, we're kind of past the whole COVID thing. You need to set your goals and expectations properly, because otherwise, a lot of the students that you want to come to enjoy ABT are just, which is American Ballet Theater, are probably not going to sign up for your classes anymore. There's a whole bunch of people who will not sign up for your classes anymore because they're tired of turning their children into booster junkies. And so I'm just being honest. When the virus was unknown, we didn't know how to cure it and all that stuff. And it was the most dangerous thing ever to exist on planet Earth. It made sense to, try to get the vaccine and all that stuff. But now we're kind of over it. I think even Joe Obama is going to say soon that we're over it, that the famous herd immunity is already a thing. The fact that the ABT, American Ballet Theater, still wants your children to be so-called up-to-date when there's evidence that if you've already had the virus, or you've already had the first 2 doses of the vaccine, and you've perhaps even had the first booster, that's more than enough, because you already, especially kids, they're in schools, they pick up crap from their friends. They're the first to pick up all the crap. That at this point, I think the virus is not exactly the biggest concern on planet Earth anymore, until the next government agency makes a mistake and releases the next one. I think we're fine. So the whole ABT thing is like overkill right now. So I'm hoping they will put their things up to date, so that kids who don't, especially parents that don't want their kids to become booster junkies, can still enjoy the classes at ABT. That'd be nice. Anywho. With that said, I love ABT super much, aside from that one thing. So this is not me ranting about ABT, but it is one thing. It is time to get things up to date, so that more kids can enjoy your classes. It'd be nice. Anywho, with that said, and again, as I always do, I always upset somebody, be it left, right, up and down, sideways. There's going to be somebody upset. So if you are easily upset by the things that I say, you should stick around for the binge hate watching. Anywho, and with that, guys, I'm going to jump into Motif, which is a French book that is going to teach you some français. Something that I learned a while back in Switzerland. But anyway, we're going to start with the French English accent, which is pretty terrible. And we're going to jump into some real French. Activité 6. Qui est? Suivez le modèle, which means follow the example or the model. Modèle, c'est Tommy Hilfiger. Non, c'est Jean Jean-Paul Gaultier. So is it Tommy Hilfiger? Or is it... is it Tommy Hilfiger? No, it isn't. It is Jean-Paul Gaultier. I said that greatly, didn't I? Anyway, c'est Reese Witherspoon. And the answer to that question is no. We can go back in the previous page and say, c'est Laetitia Casta. Then we go, c'est Pete Sampras, which I guess is Pete Sampras or whatever. I don't know. I guess that was probably a tennis player. And you say, no. C'est, gosh darn it, c'est Zinedine Zidane, which is a soccer player. She was one of my favorite soccer players, except he had a bad attitude. He was one of the anger management people who needed some serious anger management. Maybe he got it at some point. I don't know. But anyway, he had the most amazing, do you call it stop or something? Control. You could shoot a ball all the way back from, let's say the goalie could kick the ball all the way up close to the front, to the end, to the other goal. And he could control that ball. He could stop it midair, put it down, and take shots like you wouldn't believe. In my opinion, some of that control was even better than Pele's. But, Pele was more famous for some reason. I don't know. Anyway, maybe Pele was one of the more, overstated soccer players out there. Again, this is a very unpopular opinion. Pele's the best, maybe of his time. I think if you had Pele playing today, he would struggle a little bit with the modern soccer players. And anyway. C'est Vanessa Paradis. I don't remember what she is because I can't remember names ever. I can remember faces, but it's not. It is C'est Vanessa Paradis. Oh, wait, what? They didn't teach us how to say. You see, this is a problem with the motto. The motto only says, non, c'est Jean-Paul Gaultier, right? So basically, no, it's not. But in this case, it is Vanessa Paradis. So you have to say, if they ask you, say Vanessa Paradis, you have to say, oui, c'est Vanessa Paradis. Or oui, c'est elle. Or something like that. Anyway. Then c'est Audrey Tatou. Is it Audrey Tatou? Oui, c'est Audrey Tatou. Tatou, toutou. Les boubous. C'est Arnold Schwarzenegger? Non. C'est Jean-Claude Van Damme. Just making sure that I don't say the wrong words. Anyway. C'est Elvis Presley. You have to say no. C'est Johnny Holiday. C'est Mathieu Kassovitz. Oui, c'est Mathieu Kassovitz. Anyway. I guess the example, you cannot be followed exactly the way they tell you, and I guess that's why you need a real teacher in class to help you out with this stuff. C'est la description des personnes, the description of people. Structure, les prénoms sujets avec être. Les adjectifs, introduction. So in the following theme, you'll learn how to describe people. To accomplish this, you'll need to learn the verb être, to be, and some descriptive adjectives. The verb être is presented on page 22. See pages 23, 24 for details on the information of adjectives in French. So they give you a little picture here. La description physique, comment sont-ils? Look at this. Ugh. Look at this. Amazing. Amazing. So, comment sont-ils? Aiment ou sont grandes d'un certain âge mince. What the heck is that all about? I don't know. Chien moche. So basically, ugly dog. Why would they do that? Jean-Claude, jeune homme, beau, taille moyenne. taille moyenne, which is middle size. M. Vincent, vieille, petit, forte, cheveux gris. So I guess these are all adjectives to describe people. So you've got old, small, strong, gray hair. The name of a person, which is Jean-Claude. Jeune homme, which is young man. Beau, which is beautiful. Taille moyenne, which is middle size. Annie, which is a name. Petite fille, which is little girl. Blonde, which is blonde. Agnès Mercerot, I guess that's another person. Taille moyenne, jolie brune. Brune is the color of like a brunette. Pretty is, and you got Patrick, which is brun, garçon. Anyway, it's a young kid, young boy. Anyway, that is enough for today on Franche. We will put the Franche book away. Every day when the weather is humid and cold, I feel my bones pain further than I should, but I do. So what else do we have here? We've got the 10 stages of diagnostics and therapeutics in traditional Chinese medicine. I'll read a couple of pages from this. But just in case you're still watching this video, which you probably won't be because it's 77 minutes long at this point. So if you've reached this point of the video, you get extra points for being fantastic. But anyway, the snippet that I want to talk about today is there are lots of different kinds of funguses and fungi that can grow on the external skin of your body. And there could be all kinds of basically things that you can get your doctor to prescribe for you and to try to alleviate those funguses. But one of the things that I found is pretty useful, and again, please always consult your doctor before you take anything that I say, although most of the stuff that I'm going to talk about is 1, over the counter, 2, for most people non-toxic unless you're allergic to those specific things. So for the most part, it is like the stuff that I teach about martial arts and stuff is completely innocuous, basically non-lethal, non-deadly. Again, there will be exceptions, such as if you have allergies to these things, you got to consult your doctor just in case, because I don't want to be responsible for anybody getting injured. But if you do have some kind of funguses or things growing on your hands or external parts of your body, one thing that I've found to be quite useful is a product called Sarna, S-A-R-N-A. And you can get this, I don't know if it's still available now. It used to be available in most CVS pharmacies or Targets, Target and stuff like that. You should be able to get this product. But Sarna, S-A-R-N-A. And what it usually does is it soothes your skin if you have any kind of irritation and stuff like that. Another thing that you could use is any of the vegetable oils, whether it is olive oil or it is canola oil or any of the vegetable oils out there, sesame oil. Tea tree oil can also help in some cases. So all of these different kinds of oils. There is another product that is very kid-friendly. It's called calendula. I don't know how to spell that, but anyway, calendula should be quite easy to find. It is also often used for all kinds of irritations and things. But anyway, basically, most of these products are safe, with the exception maybe of Sarna for younger children. I don't know. You would have to consult your pediatrician. Please, before you take any of this advice, do consult your doctor and pediatrician. Don't just take my word at face value, but this is stuff that I've found to be quite non-lethal and that I use in my personal life. either like the tea tree oil is the tea tree oil or aloe vera, but those two products tend to be a little bit more intrusive. So my favorite out of all the products that I've explained are Sarna, but most importantly also any of the olive vegetable oils that you can just apply on top of your skin, and can really help with if you've got funguses or fungi, but also any like skin irritation or psoriasis. I think it's psoriasis. So people who get that flaky skin and stuff like that. These are just natural things that you could do to help you out if you have any of those kinds of conditions. And I do not have psoriasis, but I have had issues in the past where my skin, especially in areas that tend to, oh gosh darn it, I lost the piece. In areas which can sweat more because like, armpits or things like that, places within folds and stuff, could require something like that to help you out to get those things to heal. Anyway, hope this is helpful to you guys. And again, consult your doctors before you do any of this stuff, and they will probably say you're fine unless you have some kind of allergy to these components, which I would assume majority of people would not. But anyway, inspection. So we're jumping into the 10 stages of diagnostics and therapeutics in traditional Chinese medicine. Inspection of teeth and gums. Color of teeth. Blackish teeth indicates kidney heat. Color like dry bones indicates kidney yin exhaustion. Color of gums. Pale gums indicates blood deficiency in prolonged illness or too much loss of blood. Deep red gums indicates exuberance of heat. Purple gums indicates extreme heat. Dryness and moistness of teeth and gums. Scorching dry gums indicates damage of the body, fluid. Gums without fluid, dryness of anterior teeth is due to exuberant heat of yangming or heat stroke. Dryness of upper teeth is due to extreme heat of stomach. Collateral, and dryness of lower teeth is due to extreme heat of large intestine collateral. Moistness of teeth and gums indicates fluid is still sufficient. Shape of teeth and gums, enlarged gums, indicates exuberant heat of intestine and stomach. Semilunar teeth seen in syphilis. Bleeding gums, bleeding and reddish swelling gums with strong teeth indicates stomach fire. Loose teeth and bleeding gums without reddish swelling suggest kidney fire. Inspection of throat. Color of throat. Deep red throat indicates excess heat. Pink throat indicates deficiency cold. Shape of throat. Reddish swelling and protruding throat indicates excess heat. Slight swelling and diffuse throat is due to deficiency cold. Tonsillitis. Unilateral or bilateral lumps like mastoid process are due to accumulation of heat. Whitish soft membrane usually seen in dithyria. Inspection of tongue. The position of tongue, the tip of tongue, corresponds to the heart and lung, the banks to the spleen, the root to the kidney, the margins to the liver, the gallbladder, the center to the stomach. The texture of tongue. Red tongue. Light reddish tongue without coating indicates deficiency of long-term qi and blood of heart and spleen. Bright red tongue indicates exuberant heat in exotic febrile disease or yin deficiency with effulgent fire in consumptive disease. Dry and dull red tongue indicates deficiency of both fluid and qi of stomach. To moisten the upper refers to the upper part of the body from the head and above. It is part of the 3 parts of the body. The lower, the middle, the upper. Reddish margin of the tongue indicates liver heat. Dry and reddish center of the tongue indicates deficiency of stomach yin. Tender dry without coating, mirror-like tongue. The sign of consumption of fluid due to over-sweating or over-purgation. Red and bleeding tongue, damage to pericardium by heat. Deep red tongue indicates an inward transmission of pathogenic heat to nutrient system. Deep red tongue with yellow-white coating indicates the beginning of inward transmission of pathogenic heat to nutrient system and still existing pathogenic factors in qi system. Deep red tongue and dry center of the tongue, consumption of fluid due to fire and heat and heart and stomach. Deep red tongue tip indicates upflaming of heart fire. Deep red tongue that looks dry but is moist when touched, the sign of fluid deficiency with damp heat turning into turbid phlegm to cloudy pericardium. Bright deep red tongue indicates stomach yin exhaustion. Dry and withered deep red tongue indicates kidney yin consumption. Okay, and that'll be all for today. We will continue on with this beautiful book about Chinese medicine and the 10 stages of diagnostic therapeutics in traditional Chinese medicine. Again, I bought this book in China. I went all the way to China to buy this book. I'm not sure if you can buy it anywhere here, but it's a really cool book, and it's got all of these amazing features in it. Today, I think we're gonna end the live stream pretty soon because we're getting close to 90 minutes of jibber jabbering with Puesto. Puesto, if you guys haven't been to Puesto, eatpuesto.com. It's where you can get yourself some really yummy stuff. Depending on which location you decide to go to Puesto, you may have to wait in line or end up eating outside at the bar, so get yourself a reservation before you go to most of those. Not all, but some. We're going to jump into author profiles. No, we're not. We're going to skip author profiles. We're going to jump into the preface of this one, the only staffing 3rd edition at organizations, Heenman Judge Heenman. He-Man. By the power of Grayskull, I will find the best candidates and bring them to my 2 companies that I burned to the ground. Designing and managing successful staffing processes are major challenges for an organization. Because although I could find all the amazing people to work for the company, I couldn't find enough funding to keep it running. So eventually people could not continue to run a business this way. And eventually I was like, well, you got eventually you go into poverty to the point where end up homeless yourself. So you can't keep doing things endlessly unless you find awesome people. Welcome to the live chat. It says, remember to guard privacy and abide by our community guidelines. Okay, listen, YouTube algorithm of death. You know that my everything, pretty much all of my details have been on the internet. For now, it's been at least 20 years, including address and all kinds of stuff. My identity has been stolen already countless times, so I don't give a crap. Let me be clear, I don't give a crap. It's all out there for you guys to see. This is the one, the only YouTube channel where everything is out there in the open for people to see. Anyway, stop putting that stupid message up there. Gosh darn it, YouTube. These processes require multiple tools, techniques, activities, and participants. They must occur within a complex set of external influences beyond organizational control, such as laws and regulations in labor markets. Science, past experience, and instinct must carefully blend to gather. It says gather here. It says G-E-T-H-E-R, not gather. So again, it's very interesting how a lot of these books will have big discrepancies and issues of, I don't think enough people have read the book before publishing. To create a process that maximizes the likelihood of successful person-job matches as the employment relationship is established. This book seeks to both describe and prescribe staffing activities that can be undertaken in order to meet staffing challenges. You know, they could have, back in the day, probably didn't have Grammarly, but today with Grammarly, Grammarly looks through all the stuff that you write so that for the most part, it'll find all the errors, at least the English errors, so that you don't write "gather" in the preface of your book. This revision of staffing organizations continues to be based on the staffing organizations model. This model views staffing as a process by which the individual and the organization are matched to form the employment relationship. As depicted in the model, the staffing process is a product of external influences, economic conditions, labor markets, labor units, and laws and regulations. Support activities, strategy and planning, job analysis and measurement, staffing activities, external, internal, recruitment, external, internal, section, and decision making and final match. Staffing system management, administration, and evaluation. Several features of this revision should be highlighted. First, there are numerous examples of new and sound staffing practices that are used successfully by organizations. Second, we can incorporate a myriad of research and legal updates. Third, we use citations to websites to facilitate access to the vast amount of information available about staffing. Fourth, the chapter on job analysis now presents a knowledge, skill, ability, taxonomies available on the Occupational Information Network, the ONETs, and the B, new section on competency-based job analysis. Finally, our external recruitment chapter substantially updates and expands our treatment of recruitment sources. Specific topical additions and updates are as follows. Chapter 1, overview of models, staffing system examples. Chapter 2, economic conditions, labor markets and labor unions, labor force statistics, trends and projections, labor shortages, skill deficiencies. Chapter 3, laws and regulations, temporary employees, Fair Credit Reporting Act, EEOC guidance, counting employee retaliation and psychiatric disabilities, EEO, best practices, information, and sources. Oh, that's a lot of contents going into this book. This book. Yeah. So we talked about the staffing organization's labor model, economic conditions, labor markets, labor unions, laws and regulations, and all that good stuff. So let's just jump into something here. Anyway, let's jump into the first page. We'll just have about one page to read today. But it isn't page 1. It starts on page 4, just like most books for some reason. They never want to start on page 1. They just jump to whatever page they thought was going to be useful. I don't know. Staffing is a critical organizational function concerned with the acquisition and deployment of the organization's workforce. This chapter begins with a formal definition of staffing, following by a detailed examination of the implications of the definition of helping us understand staffing systems. Staffing is also looked at from 3 perspectives, namely strategy and planning. The human resources, or HR department, and the individual manager. Several models are then presented to elaborate on and illustrate various facets of staffing. The first model describes the person-job match, which is the foundation of all staffing activities. Next, a model of the person-organization match is given to show how person-job matching concerns often extend beyond the confines of the target job for which the person is being considered. Then, The staffing components model identifies recruitment, selection, and employment as the 3 key staffing activities. It also shows how both the applicant and the organization mutually interact in all of these activities. The HR management model places staffing with a broader context, showing how staffing occurs in concert with other HR activities. Example, compensation, and is subject to important external forces. Example, laws and regulations. Finally, the staffing organizations model pulls together all of these models and is developed to provide the basis for the structure of this book. To show real-life examples of these models, descriptions of several staffing systems are given. The system involved a police department, an automobile manufacturing plant, and theme park and staffing services. Temporary help agency company. Though their staffing systems are very different in some respects, they share the components shown in staffing organizations model. Finally, the plan for the remainder of this book is presented. The overall structure of the book is shown along key features of each chapter. And then we're going to go into, starting tomorrow, the nature of staffing, definition of staffing. The following definition of staffing is offered and will be used throughout this book. Staffing is the mutual process by which the individual and the organization become matched to form the employment relationship. This straightforward definition contains several implications which are identified and explained next. Implications of definition, organization and individual perspectives. Staffing is a mutual process that involves organizations seeking individuals. The traditional view of staffing, as well as individuals seeking organizations, a more modern view. Okay, so with that, we will put the Puesto bookmark back in this amazing book that I like, and we will read more of that tomorrow. Guys, it's been almost an hour of me jabbering away, so thank you for joining me on this trip. Remember to do your 25 push-ups every morning, and maybe break a sweat or not. We'll see. I'll see you. Take care. Have a great day.